What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new YouTube video. My name is Eric. I'm a certified strength conditioning specialist, or CSCS for short. And today I just want to go over the different types of muscle contractions that we can go through. So just to go over it, we have 5 different types of muscle contractions. We have the isometric, we have the isotonic, the isokinetic, the concentric, and the eccentric. These are all different ways that we can learn to apply force through our muscles to opposing external loads, so to speak. So just to jump right into it and to learn some of these, this might be a little hard to see. We have the three most commonly distinguished types of muscle contractions. We have our concentric, our eccentric or the elongation, and the isometric. The difference between these three muscle contractions is the concentric muscle contraction is the shortening of a muscle fiber. So if we take, let's say if we're doing a standard bicep curl, we take our arm, right, and we extend it out to here. This is our humerus, and this is our, let's just say, radius and ulna. We have a dumbbell here that we place in our hands, right? So we're already at about parallel to the ground. If we were to go and we were to curl this dumbbell all the way up here, this is going to result in this is actually going to be our muscle fiber here. This is going to result in what we call a concentric contraction. Notice here how the muscle length is actually shortening, and the muscle is actually bunching up. What this is creating is it's creating a shortened, as we would like to call a sarcomere, which is a muscle cell. It is bunching up it is bunching up as we're contracting the muscle. Now, if we were to, my marker's coming undone on me a little bit here. If we were to, let's say, lengthen out the muscle, what happens is, if our muscle is able to contract under load to a full extent, our muscle is able to generate enough torque and force to overcome the external load. Our internal load is our muscle capacity. The external load is the force that's being applied to our muscle. Our eccentric contraction, so say if we keep this standard here, our eccentric contraction would be, say we have our humerus, and then our radius and ulna keep going down that way. We have the dumbbell here, and it goes down here. This means that our bicep is in a fully lengthened position here. The whole sarcomere is stretched out, and the external force is greater than the internal force. So the weight is heavy enough that it overcomes the internal resistance proposed by our muscle fibers. Within an isometric contraction, what actually happens is we have the same, our muscle length is not, our muscle length is actually not changed whatsoever. This is actually pretty common in many rehab settings, as if we were to change the length of the muscle fiber, it may cause extra irritation to the muscle tissue itself. But the cool part about this is we're still able to apply a force, an internally generated force, to an external like muscle force or an object. So like I said, you'll see this in a lot of rehab settings, but it is a way to apply force without a change in the sarcomere or muscle cell length or muscle belly length. So going beyond those three, one thing that we can actually change is if someone has a different insertion point on their biceps. So say if we were to draw our humerus here, radius and ulna here, and our bicep inserts here, right? If we were to go and displace the line of pull or a line of action here about another, let's say, centimeter down the distal point of our humerus, we're actually going to be able to generate more moment or torque or moment arm alongside our arm here, and have a greater pull of action and be able to generate more force to lift heavier weights. This can be done like if someone has a greater moment in their arm, they will be able to generate, like I said, more force. So that's just a key little thing to know, which is kind of cool. It's just applying more of the physics aspect to lifting weights. So those are the three main types of muscle contractions. Down here, we have what we call a biodex machine. You may see these in different laboratory settings. Essentially, what a biodex machine is specifically here we have like it's set up for a quadricep leg extension or a hamstring leg curl. What this machine does is it provides what we call isokinetic or same pretty much velocity, same speed of muscle contraction. There is an eccentric lengthening and a concentric shortening to this, but what this machine will do is as you're performing the leg curl and leg extension, it will determine what weight to place on your leg to provide the same amount of speed, both eccentrically and concentrically, or concentrically with both the leg curl and leg extension aspect of the machine. So it'll be able to determine the load that you need to be able to keep the weight at a constant speed, therefore isokinetic or same speed. This is just our sarcomere up here, or muscle cell or muscle belly. So essentially what goes on, we have our H zone, which is right in between our actin right here. So our actin is actually our A band. It's our actin is our lighter band. Myosin is our darker band. Our myosin does not change length during a muscle contraction. However, our I band or our actin, I'm screwing that up. Our actin does change length. So essentially what goes on is as we're concentrically shortening a muscle tissue, this H zone is going to close in and eventually disappear, right? Because what's happening is these myosin heads are going to grab onto the actin, and through the power stroke, it's going to slowly shorten the muscle fiber, and it's going to make it smaller and smaller, and eventually this H zone will disappear. And what happens during that time is we're going through a concentric muscle contraction, so it's shortening everything. And then as we're lengthening out and the external load becomes even bigger and we say we can't handle it as well, our eccentric is actually strongest, as we'll later find out. But our eccentric, our muscle tissue is going to be lengthening, and that H zone is going to start reappearing and get wider and wider. Our A band, it won't change length because that is our myosin head. Our Z lines here are actually going to be coming in. Our H zone is going to be shortening alongside the I band or our actin. So then next up, I just want to go over real quick the isotonic. Isotonic is a way of describing the same weight on the bar. So say if you take a barbell squat and our external load is about 200 pounds. If someone is to concentrically and eccentrically contract their muscles through a full range of motion, controlling the bar, we are going through an isotonic contraction as we are engaging both the eccentric and concentric portions of a muscle, but the external load is going to stay the same length. So we're including both eccentric and concentric movements, but we have a same external load applied to our internal generated force. And then we just have, at the bottom here, we have our force velocity curve. So we can see with an eccentric contraction, say if you're doing a barbell bench press and it's coming down, say your elbows are fully extended and you're slowly releasing the bar to come down to your chest, right? We're going to have very high force output, but very slow velocity with this movement because we are we are eccentrically contracting the weight down with a heavy load, but we need to control it on the way down. If we go to the middle here, we have our isometric contractions. This is between the eccentric and the concentric. So it's a little bit weaker than our eccentric, where we're able to produce a little bit less force, but we are able to produce more force than a concentric contraction, but our velocity staying zero or the same. Like I said, this is very popular in many rehab settings. And then our concentric contraction that's all the way placed on the right-hand side or on the steeper, shallower end of the curve. We have a high velocity component with a low force output component. So this is when you're coming up at the end of the bench press, you're extending at the elbow joint and everything. We have less force than we're able to produce at that, because as you can see, the strength curve, the exercise gets harder at the top, right? So if we take that into perspective, when we're finishing off with a concentric contraction, our velocity is going to be increased, but our force output is going to be decreased, or less than what we can produce with an eccentric contraction. So I hope that helps. So one last time, I just want to go over the 5 different types of contractions. So we have isometric, we have isotonic, we have isokinetic, we have concentric and eccentric. Our isometric is no change in the length of the muscle tissue, but we're still able to produce force. Very common in rehab settings. We have isotonic, which is eccentric and concentric contractions combined. However, the external load placed on the internal load of our muscles, the external load, is going to stay constant throughout the entire movement. Our isokinetic is the same speed involving both eccentric and concentric contractions. So our isokinetic can be thought of like a Biodex leg curl and leg extension machine. Whereas the external load may change, but the same speed or velocity component of the exercise will stay the same based upon the force output that we're able to give it. Then we have our concentric, which is the shortening of the muscle tissue with our H zone and I bands. Our H zone is going to shorten and our I band is going to come closer together. And then lastly, we have the eccentric, which is the lengthening of the muscle tissue, which is where the H zone is actually going to lengthen out and we're going to get a lengthened out muscle contraction. So I hope this helps. If anybody has any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope this video helps at all. So thanks guys for watching again.